and I don't know. I like a bit of a cat with attitude. Oh, is she going to doze off quickly? A bit of a cat nap. Oh my word. Hey? That's the quickest little doze I've ever seen. And there she goes again. So from totally alert to totally asleep in milliseconds. That is phenomenal. But the ears never stop twitching and listening out. See that third eyelid that also comes over that I think it's called a nictitating membrane. And watch if she opens her eyes. You can see, and that also helps protect her eyes from getting spiked. From there, you see it how it came back there? That's very interesting. I see it on my basset hound sometimes when it gets very hot. It also gets that third eyelid coming through. Very interesting. She opens her eyes and then that little membrane comes back. The ears getting irritated by the wafting grass. The cats, they don't like anything prodding the hairs in their ears because they're using it to feel and hear, and obviously all that hair that will stop things from going into their ears. And when it gets touched, it must tickle. Quite irritating. So stops the flies from getting inside. Fang, that's an interesting question. Is the hair dust repellent? Well, it does have. It is quite oily. They do sort of secrete a bit of an oil, and that does help to sort of trap the dust, and then it will sort of come off of the hair as well. And they also do a lot of grooming, but the hair does help to trap the nitty gritties, and then eventually it falls off. But if she had to get wet, obviously there's a little bit of oil, so it doesn't really soak her through. It will come off and run off a little bit, and then it does have the same effect with dust and mud and so on. So even if she had to be covered in mud, there we go, she could be clean within a day. So not quite as clean. The hyenas aren't even close to as clean as leopard, and lion not as clean as leopard either. And I actually saw in the Masai Mara one of the very dominant females at the northern clan den site. She had it was a very hot day, and she lay in a big mud pool, and she literally had mud all over her body, and so much so that when she went back to the den, one of the little cubs was suckling on her, and it looked like it was suckling right in the midst of all the mud, and it must have been quite distasteful. But and she stayed like that, full of mud. It was caked on her. All of her hair was like dreadlocks, and looked really not that comfortable for her because it was so caked. But she stayed like that for almost 2 weeks. I think eventually it just fell off, but she made no attempt to clean it. Here she goes on the move again. This is what we want to see. Thank you, Xidulu. I'm glad you had your little cat nap, your power nap. Maybe she's charged up again, ready for some hunting. Very breezy at the moment, so you're probably not going to be hearing any bird calls or animal sounds unless it's very loud. So, well, I'll have to describe things to you as we go along. There she changes direction again. I'll let her move a little bit before I catch up with her. That's also quite important, eh? She's been habituated to the vehicles, but we need to be very careful. All right, I think I'm going to reposition, get a little bit alongside her, and see if we can get lucky with Xidulu. Right, let's do that, and while I do that, let's head you back. And Tayla, I think she's near to camp and in the tent.
we're not in the tent, we're outside the tent. We just come to have a look at the graveyard, and I wanted to come and inspect the waterbuck skull, the ginormous horns that we found, and it looks like the ants have done a good job. And I don't know if maybe somebody else has come and gnawed on this. Maybe some hyena have found it to be tasty, but there are lots of little ants running around, and then there's this very pretty little beetle that is green. I wonder if I put light on it, if it's going to be shiny. Let's try. See, look how shiny it is. It's very pretty. I don't know what that little beetle is. I don't think I've ever seen one like that before. What else is living in here? I'm sure there's lots of little spiders also now. Well, I don't know, actually, no. I don't think there'll be any spiders with all the ants that are around now. These are carnivorous little ants. And I think that they may even gobble up the little spiders. But they've done an amazing job at completely cleaning this. Look, there's more of those little beetles here. Well, they've gone under. Come out. They were just on the other side, but there seems to be lots of them. So I wonder if they're also feeding on the scraps. I'm surprised we haven't seen any carrion beetles. I don't think carrion beetles are particularly pretty. Let's turn the light off, put the phone away. So I don't know if that was them. But I can't wait for winter, because it's going to be amazing to see what we're going to find, what other bones are lurking in the grass around here, because at the moment you can't really see anything. And it's not going to be long before all this grass disappears. Actually, maybe this grass will last a little bit longer. You don't see too many animals feasting in this area. Sometimes the impala come through, but it's mainly the inyala that are hanging around here, and the bushbuck feeding on all the little plants, going straight down in the drainage and all the way back around to camp. Oh yes, now something that I want to do with you is we're going to be doing a fast 5 next time you come back to me. So think of 5 random questions, 5 things you've always wanted to ask. Now's your chance. Hashtag Safari Live. Or you can also answer on the YouTube chat. Off we go to James to see if Hosanna is being a little bit more active.
He was moving a little bit, and now he's laying down again, which is, well, I think he's waiting for darkness. No, Zeph, I really don't think that would be the case. You say, would Hosanna be seeking out his father for protection from other leopards? No, I think that's highly unlikely. I really think that would be a strange thing for him to do. Look, who knows? Nothing's impossible. But I think he just likes company. I really do. I think he's an unusual cat who likes to be around other organisms, including us, from time to time. Well, they didn't act like he wanted to be around me when we found him on foot the other day. But he is a lovely fellow. I think he's sitting here. He's not far. In fact, he's about, shall we say, 50 yards from the Chitwa fence. I think he's waiting for darkness, and then I think he's going to just trundle in there and see what bushbuck or small waterbuck he can claim. Because there are a lot of things that go into that camp in the night. Perfectly sized for Hosanna, the young male leopard. Now, we're not in the greatest position ever for him, but he was looking past the car in this general direction, so I didn't want to get between him and whatever he was looking at. So that's why I'm afraid you've got this slightly dodgy picture of him behind a whole lot of grass and bushes. But we've had some good ones of him today, so I'm not too worried about it. And we'll sit with him until it's dark, because I think that he will get up and do something relatively interesting once the darkness comes. Maybe we can move very slightly, because that picture is really not the best leopard picture in the world. Oh, he's up. Hello Kaya, you're a new viewer. It's wonderful to have you with us and thank you for sending through a question. And if anybody is perhaps wondering how on earth Kaya got hold of us, you go along to #SafariLive on Twitter or use the chat stream on YouTube to get hold of us. Your question, Kaya, in a long roundabout way is this leopard well known? Do we know him well? We know him extremely well, Kaya. We've known him from the day he was born. Brent Leo Smith found him and his sister and his mother in a tiny little cave in one of the dry riverbeds, and that was on the 3rd, I think, of February 2016, and we've been following him ever since. His sister has since died, so has his mother. We don't know what fate befell either of them, but young Hosanna, which means little chief, has thrived. Now that is not to say, for those of you who are perhaps also new viewers, that he is tame in any way. He is not. He is completely wild, but he is also just completely used to our vehicles. I'm just going to get on the radio and tell Sheldon what he's doing. Sheldon, he's sort of slowly mobile parallel with the Chitwa fence at the moment, going southeast. Okay, copy. So he's not coming, Sheldon. That's one of the Chitwa guides. Alright, let's go across to Tayla for something called Fast 5.
Right, everybody, welcome to my office. Just magically made a chair appear from, the middle of nowhere. Now, are you ready for the Fast 5? I'm ready for the Fast 5. Let's go. Question number 1. Paula, you've cuffed me. Yes, that waterbuck skull is the skull that I had to remove from camp because it did stink out the whole of camp. But it wasn't just my waterbuck skull. Let me just take the moment to make this clear. Something died, I think, in the gutter above final control, because there's still a stench lingering there, and the waterbuck skull has been gone for ages. So it wasn't just the waterbuck skull. There's many things that have died down there. Question number 2. Swoop, this is an interesting one. You've said, why don't mongoose blink? They must. They have to blink. How do they keep their eyes moist? They aren't like those lizards that live in the desert that are able to get their tongues to their eyes and lick their eyes to keep them moist and to remove dust particles. So I'm pretty sure that mongoose blink. Perhaps they're just doing it so quickly that you don't actually even notice. Or maybe they're able to hold their eyes open for a very, very long time and just blink every now and then. Now I bet you're wondering when I'm going to blink next. I can do this all day. Oh, I blinked. I was going to say, it's getting arrogant. Oh, here we go. Aunt Jo with a personal question. My favorite movie, are you ready for this? Don't laugh, is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton. It's my favorite movie of all time. I really, really do like it. And I normally watch it every single year about 100 times, and I can sing every word to every single song, which I won't do. In fact, we once had a movie night in the Mara. We all watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was great. Thank you, Aunt Jo, for that. Now you all know. Ooh. Ooh. Peggy, now this is a tricky one. I don't know when the last time I saw a leopard was with a kill. I have to think back now. A while. Actually, a long time ago now that you say. Maybe was it in the Mara? No, surely I've seen something eating. No, I've seen Hosanna eating a daker. Was that perhaps the last time I saw a leopard with a kill? Could be. I think that was it, actually. That long ago when I first got back, within the first week of March. That's terrifying. Have we got to 5 yet? I think we're only on number 4. I've forgotten. Very long time ago. Maybe I'm wrong, though. You can always correct me. I was wrong. Peggy, do you know what it was? Tingana had a tortoise kill or a terrapin kill one day at Chitwa. Bex, please can I have the last one again? because I just remembered. I don't know if that counts as a kill, but that's the last time I saw a leopard eating anything. Oh, now, Paula, here's a great question about what I wanted to be as a little girl. It started off as, I think, a firefighter was my initial thoughts, that I thought I could do that. And then it went to being a paleontologist, which I would absolutely love to do that. And then it was vet, and then no, safari guide. Okay, but I need to quickly tell you, join us at 7 p.m. tonight on Facebook Live on the Safari Live page, because I will be showing you how technologically disadvantaged I am in voting for the Webby Awards. And on that happy note, Liam and I are going home now, and Xidulu seems to be on her way home too. The quick link.
Okay, everybody. Well, unfortunately, Xidulu has now just crossed over the main road, and she's heading now out of the boundary. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to follow her there, and she has just spotted some prey in the background there. But she's on the move into the area we're not allowed to go, so we just wanted to quickly show you her on a last little peek here. And she was moving quite fast. She's now stopped, and there she goes again. And I just wanted to enjoy her for a last little brief moment. So we've had a wonderful day with her. We might get lucky that she comes back across the road, but I highly doubt it. We'll always try and just flank her and continue up the road and see if we can follow her, but she's deep in that thick grass there, and well, you know, leopards, they disappear even if they're sitting right next to the road. It's very difficult to see them. So fortunately not the best view, and I think that might be us. Goodbye, girl. I hope you get some food tonight. And, well, at least we've still got one spotted cat in sight. So as she disappears off into the brush, let's head you back to James, who at least has got a better view than we do.
We do have a slightly better view, I think. Xidulu disappearing, and now he's turned, and he's heading back towards the camp, as I suspected he might. Everything's gone quiet. We're into the changing of the guard now. One or two crickets starting up, a few other insects, and now also the white-browed scrub robin's final call of the night. Wonderful blend of, one doesn't like to use the word dull, but shall we say dim colours in the light. Let's see how beautifully he blends in with this colour. We have got the infrared light on, so we might go there, I'd say in the next 10 minutes or so. There is also a bit of a drainage system here that he might cross. There he is, I can see him still, just. My eyes are struggling this evening because I'm moisturised this afternoon, and it's in my eyes now. It's very sore. Can't see. Where is he? Ah, there he is. Benjamin, you can count. I'll give you the names. You want to know how many leopards there are in the area at the moment? Well, we've got Tingana, the old boy, who is, on his way out. We've got Hukumuri, the young pretender, who's on his way in. We've got Hosana. We'll include Tamba, although we haven't seen him for a while. That's Tandi's other cub. There's Tandi and Tlalamba, her two cubs. There is Xidulu. We don't know where Shadow and Cub are at the moment, so I'm going to exclude them for now. And that's probably about it. on our traversing area. There's Guchava and her cub down here on Chitwa. They're not always with us. There was always the possibility of seeing quarantine male leopard around these parts. Possibly Djuma, a big male from the north in Biffle's Hook. Am I leaving anyone out? I feel like I'm very short on female leopards there. Possibly in Kanyeni, but very unlikely. So I think that's probably about it. Right, we are now going to go to infrared. Are you ready, Senzo? There it is. This is unbelievable. Ralph is on fire. Let's go straight back to him.
Yes, hello everybody. And wow, we've just managed to, I think it's still Xidulu. And he's now come up the road. I think she's just circled round. So I'm just going to spin around. We've been quite lucky. She's come back on the road. So we're back with her. We're back. I thought that was it. She was gone. But she obviously wasn't successful with whatever she was chasing there and decided to double back and around. So we spun around and got lucky that we spotted her. We could so easily have just gone away and would not have seen her again, but we got lucky. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to get us around on a tight space here, everyone, but she's on the road. I hope she doesn't give us the old switcheroo and go back through there anyway. Let's hope she stays on this side of the road. She's doing quite a bit of marking. I think Ferg is now just switching over to the infrared and the night vision so that we'll be able to get good colour and be able to see her nicely. The wind is starting to drop a little bit now, so you quite possibly be able to hear the birds calling and so on. There's a little pearl-spotted owlet calling next to us. She's doing quite a bit of marking. There she goes, straight up the road. She's still very much in a hunting mode. She's sort of trying her luck wherever she can. What a wonderful picture that is. Leopard walking up on the open road. Just nice to be able to see her so clearly. There's another vehicle coming up behind us. I do want to get up a little bit closer. Now, Angie, that's a good question that you're asking about the vehicles and guides deterring them from hunting. They can do sometimes. That's why it's very important for us to try and keep our distance. And with these habituated cats, we also just, with experienced guides, it's important. There's rules and regulations, there's ways that we need to follow them, and you see, we always keep our distance, and you also always look at her body language. She will tell us if we're too close. She look over her shoulder, or she gives just a half a little jog forward. That's you're really too close at that stage. So you never want to get into that position, but if you do, which can happen, you sometimes, don't know her boundaries and how close that she's comfortable with you being next to her, then you just fall back a bit and you give her a little bit of space. So we just watch her and we're just doing things like that. And obviously, if she starts to hunt, we just want to stay as much out of that whole situation as possible. We don't want to give her an advantage, and we don't want to give her position away to the impala. We actually just want to be totally free of interference. So we try our best not to in all situations, but every now and then there is mistakes made, but we just try and train all the guides as well as possible. And I think now she's walking up that road over there. That might be the real end of the sighting. once she turns that corner, I think that might be the last we see of her. First Lady Shah, you're asking a very interesting question. And you know, the thing is that everybody's got their particular smell, and overlaying female markings could potentially confuse maybe an unsuspecting male or a young male, an inexperienced male or an inexperienced female, a youngster. But generally, once they get to know the particular individual smells of different male and female scents, and once they get a little bit older, it's such a fine, acute sense of smell that they can actually pick up each and every individual. So I'm going to move forward a little bit and see if we can pick up. She's disappeared into the grass on the side there, so you know, for all intents and purposes, I think it might be the last that we see of her. But well, I thought that the last time, and well, she popped out again, so just need to keep running in this area and see what happens. We'll wait here for a little while. At the moment, there's no visual, but all we can do is hope for the best at the moment. Romet, as far as I know with Xidulu, she sort of comes backwards and forwards from Buffels Hook into this little corner here on the northeastern side of Djuma, and it seems like she's a little bit nomadic. So I don't know if she has a real established territory yet. I must find out exactly her age. She does look like quite a young female, and I think she's probably around the age of 3 or 4. But I could be wrong, and I'll just double check that, because she's not one of our high profile leopards because of her nomadic movement and in and out. It would be nice. There I'm hearing some impala alarm calling off in the distance there. So she's obviously making her way deeper into this block where which forms part of our boundary. So yeah, that's her disappearing off into there. So she's got a boundary that is obviously doesn't fall part of our boundary. So she's moving between these two properties. There's no fence in between, so that's why she's doing it. Right, we're going to get our spotlight out, but it sounds like James already has. Let's go over to him.
I'm afraid, everybody, we have got our spotlight out, but we'd also have lost the leopard. He's gone into some very thick bush, and there, I'm afraid, there was no way for me to follow him. We went around, and then I'm afraid we lost him. So I just thought we've had a great view of him. He's looking quite hungry. He's probably on the hunt, so let's leave him be. Okay? Okay, good. I'm glad you all agree with me. I know you do. And so we'll see what else we can find for the last half hour. Perhaps another leopard. Perhaps some lions. I'm not sure I'd recognize a lion if I saw one. I would do my best to recognize it though. Or a bush baby, yes, I could try and find a bush baby. I like bush babies. Or some very startled water thickneys. Beautiful. Debbie, you're wondering about calls of birds and whether they have different evening and day or morning calls. No, not really. The white-browed scrub robin does have 2 calls, definitely. A few birds have 2 calls, and the white-browed scrub robin will make both at various times of the day, but it's normally at this time of the day that it makes that call. But otherwise, no, I don't think they have necessarily 2 different calls for different times of the day. It just happens to be that one bird. I'm not sure why it does it either. I think that is often a bit of an alarm, perhaps. More water thickneys on the ground. We will be heading out of Chitwa now. Now Monique, all the way in London, you are thinking about a fiery-necked nightjar, the good Lord deliver us bird. Yes, we might be lucky there. A nightjar? For those of you from Australia, it's like a frog mouth. I think that's what they call them there. And it's a fairly innocuous looking, sort of difficult to identify brown bird. And it lies in the open at night. And it jumps. Its eyes are situated quite close towards the top of its head, so it can see what's going on above it. And then it leaps off the ground and grabs insects out of the air. That is the nightjar. And it's got this mouth that, when you look at it, it looks like a tiny little beak. But if you open its mouth, it expands to this sort of, what should we say, I guess membranous sac, if you like. And so that helps it to catch its insects on the wing at night. Quite astonishing, really. I don't have a picture of its mouth, otherwise I would certainly show it to you. So for now, you're just going to have to deal with my voice as I search for magnificent creatures of the night. I'm assuming Tayla by now is safe and sound back in camp. And I'm sure you've heard at various times during the day, during this drive and perhaps yesterday's, at least this morning's drive, about Hosana's visit to camp last night. And it's a timely reminder. It's amazing how complacent we get. And if, for those of you who haven't heard, Hosanna arrived at our new commodious places. Commodious, what would I want to say? Accommodations. Commodious accommodations. Oops, daisies, I'm blinding people now. They're trying to have a quiet gin and tonic. And it was a very timely reminder that, of course, we do live in a wild place. Bye-bye. And animals are all around. And wonderful to stick your head out the window and find a leopard there. Not so wonderful when you're walking home at night and he happens to be stalking a bushbuck next to you. It's a bit scary, that. Anyway, no one died, as they say in the classics. Now this is where we had the baboons alarm calling today, and because of where we found Hosanna this afternoon, I think that they weren't shouting at lions that we heard roaring this morning, but rather at him. Somewhere around here. That's why we didn't see him this morning. And so I'm going to take back what I said about lions and just presume that they were shouting at him. And that was right around here as he crossed towards Chitwa. Ooh, question from Bambini. Bandini? Bambini? Zambini? Banzini? Bandini? Nandini. Okay, Nandini, right. Right, thank you. Yes, Nelson Nandini. Okay, Nelson Nandini, I've forgotten what you want to know. Oh, has there ever been conflict between lions and leopards? Well, yes, there has, a lot. In that lions will steal from leopards, they will kill from leopards whenever they can. If a male leopard was to come across a lion den or some unattended lion cubs, he would almost certainly kill them, so would a female. But in terms of an actual conflict where adults face off against each other, no, that doesn't happen, because lions will kill leopards, and leopards know that. They're much bigger, lions are, and so there's really no competition. So leopards will universally avoid contact with lions to the best of their ability. And you will often find them sitting in the tops of trees, sometimes pursued by lions up trees, but lions, of course, being much clumsier and much larger, don't manage to get all the way up there. All right, we're going to lose some signal. Let's go and find out what the rest of Ralph's evening involves. So that's what he's apparently going to tell you.
Thank you, Sir James. And, well, we've got the spotlight out now, and we're on the search for all the nocturnal beasties that might be jumping around. I'm hoping to see a little bush baby, maybe, on one of these trees as we pass by. But generally, they do like frequenting areas around the drainage lines and so on. So we still do have a chance. What's that on the road? Looks like it might be a thickney. We'll just see when we get a little bit closer. You see these kind of little night birds that start to come out? It might be a courser. Let's have a look. No, it is a thickney. See him there? No, I think he's got some insects on the road. What is he after there? My hand is a little bit shaky now. I think it's all the excitement with Xidulu. What has he got? Is that a worm? Oh, yes, it's an earthworm. Look at that. So, we didn't get a leopard kill, but it looks quite possible we've got a bird kill here. He hasn't quite put it out of its misery just yet. Come on, worm, make your escape. Maybe I shouldn't speak so loud. I'm disturbing him. There we are. Oh, it's trying to get away. Is it a centipede? Well done, Ferg. I didn't see those little pincers on the end of the tail. You see how it's trying to strike? I think he's trying to kill it first. And those centipedes, they do have a little bit of a venomous sting to them. So you do need to be a little bit careful. Keep it away from your eyes. And that's obviously why it's after that tail first. Oh, hey, there we go. Gone. No. That centipede is no more. Up. And there she goes. Well done, duckhop, or thickney, as they now call them. For me, one of those birds that I grew up knowing that it's a duckhop. And for me, it will never change. But the new name, duckhop, but what a wonderful little sighting that was. Hey? After the leopard not getting its kill, the duckhop did, or the thickney. What else does the night hold for us? The night drive has just started. Let's see if we can find some bush babies, or I hear somebody was after a fiery neck nightjar. Let's have a look. Always changes. As soon as that sun goes down, it's almost like the change of the guard. It's got all sorts of other little characters that show themselves. And some of the daytime species disappear down burrows or get up in the trees, and the other ones come out. You know, it's even known that sometimes you can have a bit of time sharing going on between porcupines and aardvark in the same burrow. So the warthog spends his day out on the plains, and the aardvark digs his burrow and goes into the burrow, spends the day in there, and as he comes out, the warthog goes in. Just seeing which way we're going to go. I think we'll go straight and then we'll turn left from there. So that's quite amazing how you could potentially have a bit of that time sharing between the two. But aardvark, I think it doesn't happen too regularly because they are quite shy creatures and they don't like to share their space with many others, and they're such prolific diggers that they can dig themselves a new burrow every night. And that's the wonderful nature of them, that they make those burrows available for all the other animals. And it is actually fascinating the amount of animals that actually use aardvark burrows, from hyenas to lions to leopard. Elan, the last time that I saw a caracal, where I come from in the Eastern Cape, around Kruger Game Reserve and Shamwari and the Addo Elephant National Park, they are pretty much like the leopards we have here. They're all over the place. So I saw one, I think it was last month, so a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I saw. And sorry, in South Africa, if we say a couple, it doesn't mean two. It could mean anything from 2 to 10. It's one of those things, it's like now or just now. It could mean anything from now to infinity. So a couple, yes, a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, in South African terms, I saw a caracal, and I think it was on one of the gravel roads. I was just taking a shortcut, as we do. Oh, and something I heard on the flight coming up here, we were about half an hour early, and the pilot came over the intercom, as they do, and he said to us, "Yes, this is your captain speaking, and we're going to be landing half an hour early because I found a shortcut." Now, that I thought very interesting, how that pilot found a shortcut on the way up from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg, but I think it must have been that he got in the slipstream of someone and maybe he flew behind him. But anyway, we landed a half an hour early. I don't know how I got onto that topic, but looking for night animals, that's what we should be talking about. Caracal, yes, that's one of my favorite animals. Genet, we'll see a lot of genet around here this time of night. They do start to run around on the road. And something I saw this morning when we were tracking those hyena and leopard was civet tracks. Now, normally in this part of the world where I used to work on Salati Game Reserve and Karongwe and all around in the Kruger, we used to see civet tracks everywhere. They're the most common track that you find, and it was quite surprising. It was one of the first things that I said to Steph and James when I started here at Djuma, where's all the civets? And they said it is quite unusual that you hardly find any here. And I spoke to Aubrey, who was our tracker, who's been here for 32 years, and he said they generally start coming back in winter. So they move into this area, and that's why he said we'll start to see more and more now. So that's interesting. That's an animal that we may see as we're driving now. Looks a bit like a mixture between a hyena and a honey badger. But as I continue searching for that fiery neck nightjar, let's head over to James and see when last he saw a civet.
I would like to see both civet, caracal, and something called a fiery necked jar. That's a very interesting creature. I'd like to see a fiery necked jar. A caracal, I do not remember the last time I saw a caracal. It was a very, very long time ago. I've never seen one here. A civet I've seen once here, and it's very interesting because up at Ngala, where I used to work, you'd be guaranteed civets every night on the way home. And I wonder if it doesn't have to do with a higher concentration of leopards in this area. I think maybe the higher concentration of leopards results in civets being eaten a lot more regularly and keeping a low profile. We do see their tracks on the road from time to time, not as commonly as I used to at Ngala, like I say. I saw one civet. In fact, we didn't even get it on camera. It was on the main access road, and it's got a civetry quite close, about sort of near Galago shortcut, which is one of the roads not far from camp. Now, Tesla, you are just 7 years old, of course, which everybody knows because you ask such good questions and you ask them very often. You say, does a crocodile stay in the water at night like a hippopotamus? Well, firstly, Tesla, hippopotamus doesn't stay in the water at night. They come out of the water at night so that they can go and find their food, which is grass and possibly a little bit of fruit, and in tough times they eat elephant dung, which isn't very nice at all. But crocodiles will probably on a cold night come out of the water, or if they feel a little bit threatened, maybe they'll go into the water. On a hot night they might hunt in the water. So I think it really does depend on the night. They can be in the water at night, but sometimes they'll be out. Hippos are almost always out of the water for some of the night. But I know horrible stories, Tesla, of people going swimming in the night in water holes in South Africa, and it's a really not a good thing to do, and they've horrible stories of crocodiles eating them. Okay, let's go back to Ralph, who's got himself a hoppy thingy.
Yes, and that hoppy thingy just hopped itself down. Oh, there we go. There they are. There's a couple of them just a little bit further up the road. I don't want to scare them, so we'll have to go into that night vision there. I'm going to switch off and see if we can spot them in the dark. There we go. That's the wonderful nature of the infrared. It is totally dark. I can't see them without the screen. A couple of Cape scrub hares there. And it's always interesting because, you know, when you drive on the road, especially on the tar roads, when you're going at high speeds, and these animals get really stunned by the light, and they always run in front of the vehicle. Now, I heard a very interesting theory from somebody that said normally the only light that they have is that of the moon, because they are nocturnal. So when they come out, if they get a shadow, it's only from the moon, and it will only be on one side. Now, when you have your two front lights in the vehicle, it's shining almost at different angles, and the animal gets two shadows, which confuses it. So it hops to the right and there's a shadow in front of it. It hops to the left and there's another shadow in front of it. So it jumps back. And that's why it runs in front of you, backwards and forwards. I thought it was a fantastic theory, because why do they stay in front of the light? And you see them going off to the left, and as they get there, then they sharp turn back right. It's not as if they run straight in front of you. It's really a zigzag motion from right to left. So I thought that was really interesting, the way that he thought that was why they do it. Oh well, that's the best theory I've heard, so I'm sticking with it, unless somebody can tell me something better. That's why they run from in front of the vehicle. And there he is. So also, when we drive, we don't particularly want to disturb them too much with the unnatural light, so we'll also just switch off and then go to infrared if he's not going to go off the road. He's just there in front of us there, but moving up the road a bit now, so we'll continue as well. And often we also need to be careful, because even if you're driving at rather slow speed, they also run in front of the vehicle. So then you just switch off your lights and you carry on going, and then immediately they run off to the side. It's directly related to the light. So it's nothing else. It's not the vehicle or anything that confuses them. It's purely the light, and maybe from those two different angles. Anyway, something different about hares. Angie, once the sun sets, at the moment it still doesn't... Oh, what is that? Oh, it's a duiker. So we'll leave the daytime animals alone. Angie, at the moment it's probably dropped about 5 degrees centigrade, so maybe not even so much. Here in the Lowveld, it doesn't really drop too much. It all depends on the conditions, but generally, up to about 5 degrees once that sun goes down. But it's not a huge drop like it would be around the coastal areas and so on. Remember that we do have a lot of granite rocks here, and the soil as well, so it retains the heat. And so it retains the heat very well, and that's why we've almost got this heat coming up from the ground and keeps it very stable temperature. Well, that's what I say, and I'm not very cold, but apparently James is. He's got his jacket out. Let's go see.
I have got my jacket on, but I've had to undo the front because it seems to have strange sort of habits and traditions and things. But one of those is, in order to prove that you're a man and how manly you are, you need to not put a jersey on, which it strikes me as so profoundly stupid that I've never really understood it. You know what I mean, Senzo? When you will stand around in a group of men in midwinter, all of them in their shirt sleeves, being so manly by being freezing. Really very strange behavior. Does it happen in other parts of the world? I'd love to know. I must tell you, it's not cold right now though. And if I'm not cold, it's either because it isn't cold or because I have malaria. And I don't think I have malaria. Manly passage. Anyway, I own many jerseys. Many of them are warm. I remember once it snowed in Johannesburg about 4 years ago. It must have been 4 or 5 years ago it snowed in Johannesburg. It was 2 degrees. 2 degrees Celsius, which for us in this part of the world, I mean, really, you hide in your bed for the day when it's 2 degrees. And it was 2 degrees, and a friend of mine, who's not such a good friend anymore, came to visit me. He needed something or other, and I opened the gate. I was dressed in pretty much everything I had in my wardrobe. He arrived in his shirt sleeves, and I said, "Are you not cold?" "No," he said, his face going blue. his lips dropping clean off him and onto the road in front of him. So, I mean, I hope he felt manly about that, but I'm sure the pneumonia that came with it was well, maybe that gave him a sense of manhood as well. I've failed to find any form of bush baby, I'm afraid. R. Beard, you say that this is a manly tradition throughout the world, the avoidance of jerseys. I've seen many scrub hares this evening. I'm going to stay off them. Ah. Destiny, you live in the Canadian Arctic and you say that you don't put on a parka until it's minus 35 and then it'll only be a small fleece. Yes, well, you are Canadian. I mean, that does explain quite a lot. What is that? Surely that cannot be a civet. Something went running off the road here. Did you see it? Shall we just claim it as a civet? Oh, no. Sensible says it was a scrub hare. Okay, well, thank you. That's sensible. Alright, well, let's keep going. We might be lucky on our last little road. Got one more road to drive before we turn for home. And perhaps Ralphie, who has been on fire today, has a little bit more luck in the next few minutes.
Well, James, I haven't had that much luck on the night drive just yet. Well, actually, I'm lying. That thickney with that centipede, that was brilliant, I would say. The small things are just as fascinating to me as watching leopard trying to take down kudu, or elephants fighting with lions, and hyenas interacting with each other. So it's not all about those big animals, or the high-profile animals, should I say. It's the small little things like that. I once saw a little spider wasp that was attacking I think it was a worm. It was either a worm or a lizard or something like that, and it was attacking it, and out of nowhere came this lizard, and it attacked the spider. And so immediately we had this little battle between, and it was right on my front porch, so I was just enjoying the afternoon sun, and then we had this little battle with this lizard and the spider wasp. And I tell you what, that lizard thought he had got the once over on the spider wasp and he was going to eat it, but I think somehow the spider wasp got the little stinger in between the scales, and that lizard jumped. He obviously got stung, and off he went, and the spider wasp got back to his business of dealing with the worm. But it was an amazing little interaction. And here's another scrub hare on the road. Nandini, I would say that second to humans, I would have to say we're talking about intelligence must be orangutans. Okay, there we go. We're on to that spring hare again. Not spring hare, the scrub hare. I would have to say orangutan or gorilla. And then maybe after this. So the primates are most intelligent according to their brain size and how big it grows from when they're an infant to when they're an adult. And then, I mean, the other mammals, we'd have to say elephants and dolphins. And then you get a lot of clever birds as well. But I would say that those in that order, the primates, and then moving on to dolphins, and also even animals like honey badgers, extremely intelligent, as well as hyenas. So there's all sorts. But I suppose intelligence is quite difficult to measure, because how we've got our way of doing things, but I think that sometimes we are the most intelligent species on the planet, but some things that some people do, I think we've either gone down in the later ages as humans, or we do have some really strange characteristics and traits that we have propagated. But this little guy, he's in the dark. We've got no light on him. That's on infrared. Look how those ears are moving from backwards and forwards. And they are herbivorous, so he won't be looking for insects. He's going to be purely eating grass. And as I said, I think it was last night or the night before, they're very efficient in in how they feed. They will eat quite a bit of grass, and then they'll defecate and eat their defecation, and then pass it through 2, sometimes 3 times, and get all the nutrients out of the grass. As he hops along down the road, doing his nightly chores. And it's amazing, we don't see them during the day, and now they're all out immediately as that sun goes down. So everyone, whoop, a big jump there. Thanks for joining me on my side of things, and I'll say good night for now, but let's head you on over to James for the last little segment.
Yes, hello again. Last little bit indeed. 2 things for me to tell you before we close. Firstly, I think you can probably still vote for the Webbies. I think there are a few more hours left. Those, in case you don't know, the website's apparent equivalent to the Oscars or the Emmys, except this time you get to vote. So just go to our Facebook page, and there are 3 links there, and you can vote either any of those links or all of them, and Tayla will show you at about 7 o'clock tonight live on our Facebook page exactly how to do it. So you can go across and watch Tayla in her boudoir as she votes for the Webbies this evening. Then the other thing for me to remind you of is Dive Live. This quite spectacularly ambitious project, well, not that any of his aren't ambitious, of Graham Wallington's and his wife Emily's, of course. They are about to arrive in Grand Cayman to begin the Dive Live adventure, and we would very much like you to be part of that if you would like to, and you can help us by going on to the Kickstarter campaign, and you can check that out on our Dive Live Facebook page. We have to reach a certain goal to make it all happen, so if you would like to contribute, that would be wonderful. Nothing, just remember this, nothing will change with our safari lives. This is an expansion. It is not a contraction or a change or a movement away from safaris. It's just an expansion to another part of the wilderness. So if you're interested in diving or the sea, that's a really good one to be involved in. That's Dive Live. Okay, everyone, that is going to be it from us this evening. I would like to thank Senzo Mkhize for his supreme effort today. Thank you, Senzo. He's got a nasty headache because he didn't drink enough water today. Luckily, we're only 10 seconds away from home. Sorry about that. Thank you to all of you for your questions and comments. You really do make our days out here. We will see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. Until then, bye-bye.